If you're going to disappear in the Rocky Mountains in winter, it usually doesn't happen quietly. There's often a storm, a breakdown, a wrong turn, or a desperate attempt to find help before the cold sets in. But in this case, one detail refuses to sit still. Aletha Capps was not alone. On a cold December day in 1955, she was last seen with a man named Alva C. Quillen Jr., moving between small cafes in Colorado's mining country before heading toward a remote mountain road near Castle Rock. After that, the timeline becomes dependent on one person's account. Aletha Capps was never seen again. Tonight, we rebuild the final day, examine the geography, and look closely at the parts of this story investigators struggled to reconcile, because even decades later, the unanswered questions remain. This is the disappearance of Aletha Capps.
Welcome to Case Files of the Missing, where the search for answers does not end with time. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Aletha Capps was 33 years old at the time she vanished. She was last confirmed seen on December 17, 1955. Her last confirmed companion was Alva C. Quillen Jr. The last public sightings occurred at two cafes in Victor and Cripple Creek, Colorado. According to Quillen, their vehicle later became stuck in a snowbank on Rampart Range Road near Castle Rock. Aletha was reported missing after Quillen claimed she disappeared while he went to get help. She has never been located. The case remains open. Aletha Capps was a small woman, standing about 5 feet tall, with brown hair and brown eyes. At the time she disappeared, she was divorced but still maintained occasional contact with her former husband, who never heard from her again after December 1955. One detail investigators noted early on was that Aletha reportedly had a serious heart condition requiring medication several times a day. Her condition limited how far she could walk without difficulty. That detail alone shapes how investigators viewed the timeline, because it introduced a very real physical limitation in a case that unfolded in harsh winter terrain. Aletha wasn't someone who could easily travel long distances on foot without preparation. And yet, the official account suggested she may have left a stranded vehicle in the mountains. Understanding who she was means understanding those limitations, because they make certain explanations harder to accept. On December 17th, Aletha was seen with Alva C. Quillen Jr. in Victor, Colorado, at the Gold Coin Cafe. They were refused service because they appeared to be under the influence of alcohol. Later, they went to the home cafe near Cripple Creek. This would become the last confirmed time anyone besides Quillen saw Aletha alive. Witnesses reported that Aletha drank a glass of milk while Quillen had beer. After leaving the cafe, they drove away together. From this point forward, the timeline relies entirely on Quillen's version of events. According to Quillen, after leaving the cafe, the pair went for a drive. He said their car skidded off the road and became stuck in a snowbank on Rampart Range Road near Castle Rock. He claimed they spent the night inside the vehicle. The next day, he said he hiked over a mountain to Palmer Lake to get help. When he returned, Aletha was gone. Search efforts reportedly found no trace of her. No confirmed tracks leading away. No confirmed sightings. Just a missing person in winter mountains, and one person's explanation. Rampart Range Road is not an urban environment. It's a mountain corridor where winter conditions can become dangerous quickly. Even experienced travelers can underestimate how rapidly weather and terrain can change. But in Aletha's case, the environmental risks were compounded by her medical condition. If she left the vehicle voluntarily, she would have done so without medication and in terrain that offered little margin for error. Investigators would naturally ask why someone would leave the relative shelter of a vehicle unless there was a compelling reason. And if she did leave, where would she realistically go? These questions never found clear answers. During the investigation, Quillen reportedly failed a polygraph examination related to Aletha's disappearance. Authorities stated they believed he knew more than he had disclosed. While polygraphs are not considered definitive proof, they can highlight inconsistencies or areas investigators want to examine more closely. Over time, Quillen's account changed slightly. He later claimed Aletha had suffered a heart attack after the vehicle became stuck. This revision introduced another layer of uncertainty, because it shifted the narrative from a simple disappearance to a possible medical emergency followed by unexplained circumstances. Investigators were left trying to reconcile shifting details with the lack of physical evidence. Search teams reportedly used extensive resources, including tracking dogs and aerial searches. Despite these efforts, no confirmed trace of Aletha was found. No clothing, no personal belongings, no confirmed direction of travel. The absence of evidence created a vacuum where theories could form, but none could be confirmed. One possibility is that Aletha left the vehicle disoriented or distressed and succumbed to the elements. Winter terrain can erase tracks quickly, and even short distances can become dangerous. But her medical limitations make this scenario difficult to fully reconcile. Another possibility is that the account of events was incomplete. Investigators expressed skepticism about Quillen's story, suggesting there may have been more to the timeline than was ever disclosed. A third possibility is voluntary disappearance, though this is considered unlikely given her health condition. Lack of preparation and complete absence of confirmed contact afterward. Each theory explains part of the story, but none explains everything. Cases involving a single last witness often hinge on consistency. In this case, the story depended heavily on one narrative that investigators reportedly found difficult to verify. Without physical evidence to confirm or contradict the account, the investigation stalled. And as years passed, the chances of new physical evidence diminished. Aletha Capps disappeared in a time before modern forensic tools, before digital records, and before widespread search technology. But the core questions remain timeless. Where did she go? What really happened on that mountain road? Why was no trace ever found? Cases like this remind us how quickly a timeline can collapse into uncertainty. When the last confirmed sighting becomes the last reliable fact. December 17, 1955. Aletha is seen with Alva C. Quillen Jr. at cafes in Victor and Cripple Creek. They leave together. Quillen later claims their vehicle became stuck on Rampart Range Road. He says they spent the night in the car. He claims he left to get help and returned to find Aletha gone. Search efforts find no trace. Investigators express concern about inconsistencies. Aletha Capps is never found. Some disappearances are loud, filled with witnesses and clear evidence. Others are quiet, leaving only a handful of facts and a long list of unanswered questions. Aletha Capps' case sits firmly in the second category. A winter road, a stranded vehicle, a timeline dependent on one account, and a woman who vanished without a trace. Decades later, the mountains remain. The road still winds through the same terrain, and the questions remain where they've always been, waiting for answers that may still be out there. Aletha Capps deserves clarity. Until that clarity comes, her case remains open.
This is Case Files of the Missing, where the search for answers does not end with time. For more intriguing missing person and cold case stories, please like, comment, and subscribe.